The research vessel Luminous Inquiry drifted silently through the debris field. What was once a proud human fleet now existed only as twisted metal and frozen bodies spinning slowly in the vacuum of space. Zalvora pressed all four of her silver-skinned hands against the viewing panel, her large amber eyes reflecting the destruction outside. As the chief cynobiologist of the Verlath Science Academy, she had seen many things in her 160 years, but nothing like this. "Complete your scan and prepare to depart," Commander Tilmuth ordered from behind her. "The Krayaks might return, and the Verlath maintain neutrality in this conflict." Zalvora's antenna twitched in acknowledgement, but something caught her attention. A small reading, barely registering on their sensors. "There's a power signature," she said. "Faint, but active. Probably a weapons system still online. All the more reason to leave," Tilmuth replied. But Zalvora was already moving toward the shuttle bay. "I need to check. It's coming from a civilian vessel." Minutes later, she guided her small craft through the wreckage, following the weak signal to a ship half the size of the others. The hull was breached in multiple places, but one sealed section remained. As she docked and stepped through the airlock, the emergency lights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows. The air was thin but breathable. Zalvora moved cautiously through the corridor, her steps light in the failing gravity. She heard nothing except the occasional creak of metal and the soft beep of her scanner. Then she found it, the source of the power signature, a small room with a single stasis pod still functioning. The pod's transparent top revealed its occupant, a human infant, perhaps 6 months old, with wispy dark hair and closed eyes. Zalvora checked the pod systems. It was failing. In less than an hour, it would shut down completely, and the child would die. She accessed the ship's logs, finding only fragments. Asterisk, surprise attack. No warning. Families on board. Colony ship, not military. Emergency protocol activated. Stasis for the children. Asterisk. The final entry made her antenna droop with sadness. Asterisk, if anyone finds this, please. They're innocent. Take them. Save them. Asterisk. Her communicator buzzed. Chief Scientist, return immediately. Our sensors detect Krayaks vessels approaching this sector. Zalvora looked at the sleeping human child. Her people had studied humans from afar for decades. They were considered unpredictable, emotional, and potentially dangerous, qualities the logical Verlath found concerning. Taking one aboard would violate dozens of protocols. Yet 5 years ago, Zalvora had lost her own offspring to a rare genetic disorder. As she stared at the human infant, something stirred in her, an emotion the Verlath rarely acknowledge. Decision made, she carefully disconnected the pod from the ship's systems and activated its portable power source. It would maintain life support for 12 hours, enough time to reach their ship and adapt their systems for a human child. As she carried the pod back to her shuttle, a final message came through the ship's dying communication system, broadcast on all frequencies, the last words of the human fleet. "Protect the children. They are our future." The shuttle detached from the ruined vessel as the Krayak ships appeared on the horizon, their distinctive red energy signatures unmistakable. Zalvora felt the weight of her decision as the pod hummed quietly beside her. "I will protect you, small one," she whispered, though she knew the sleeping child couldn't hear. "I don't know if this is wisdom or folly, but you will live." The shuttle accelerated toward the waiting research vessel, carrying its unexpected passenger toward a future neither human nor Verlath could have imagined. "She requires a higher oxygen level than our atmosphere provides," Zalvora explained to the Council of Elders. 3 days had passed since she had brought the human infant to Verlath Prime, and her nutritional needs are complex. The 7 silver-skinned elders looked down at her from their curved seats. Their antennae twitched with disapproval. "This human should be sent to a research facility," said Elder Morvath, "not kept in a private dwelling. It is unprecedented." "She," Zalvora corrected firmly. Not it. And her name is Ilara. The name had come to her while studying the human star charts. Ilara was a moon orbiting a gas giant in the human home system, a small bright body that had survived countless cosmic impacts. You've named it. Another elder asked with surprise. I will modify my home to meet her needs, Zalvora continued, ignoring the question. I request access to all our data on human physiology and development. After much debate, the council reluctantly agreed, but with conditions. Zalvora must submit detailed reports on the human child's development, and if Ilara showed any signs of the aggression humans were known for, she would be transferred to a controlled facility. The first year was the hardest. Zalvora converted one section of her dwelling into what the human data called a nursery, with special lighting, temperature controls, and air composition. She synthesized human milk based on samples in their database. Ilara cried often. The sound pierced Verlath's ears painfully. Neighbors complained. Colleagues suggested sedatives. Zalvora refused. Instead, she held the small human against her chest, humming low tones that seemed to soothe the child. She noticed that physical contact calmed Ilara more effectively than any technical solution. This confused Zalvora. Verlath children required minimal physical contact for proper development. You are quite different, aren't you? She whispered to the sleeping infant one night. Perhaps that is why your kind achieved so much in such a short time. You need each other in ways we do not understand. By age 3, Ilara was speaking. She mixed Verlath words with the human English that Zalvora had programmed into her learning devices. Her energy levels astonished everyone. Why does she move so much? Asked Kelfar, Zalvora's research partner. They watched as Ilara ran circles around the garden, laughing. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world with many predators, Zalvora explained. Their children use play to develop survival skills and build physical strength. It seems inefficient. And yet, they reached the stars in a fraction of the time it took us. When Ilara turned 5, the questions began. Why am I different? She asked one evening while Zalvora brushed her dark hair. A grooming ritual she had learned was important for humans. Zalvora's hands paused. You are human. I am Verlath. But where are other humans? Do I have a human mother too? Zalvora had prepared for this moment. Yes, she loved you very much. There was a great trouble. And I found you. Your human parents could not care for you, so I became your mother. Will I meet other humans someday? Perhaps. But for now, you are here with me. That night, after Ilara slept, Zalvora added to her research log. Asterisk, the human child shows remarkable adaptability. Despite being the only one of her kind on our world, she displays minimal signs of distress. However, her questions about her origins have begun. The Council has forbidden me from sharing details of the war. I fear this omission may harm our bond when she is older. Asterisk. By age 7, Ilara was attending the Science Academy's primary education center. She learned the complex Verlath language in half the expected time. Her problem-solving abilities outpaced many Verlath children twice her age. She connected the stellar formation principles to biological cell division. Her instructor reported with amazement. No child has ever recognized that pattern before. Zalvora felt an emotion rare among her people, pride. Yet this was mixed with concern. Each day, Ilara became more exceptional. Each day, more scientists requested permission to study her. She is not an experiment, Zalvora told them firmly. She is my daughter. And each night, as the human child slept, Zalvora wondered what would happen when Ilara eventually learned the full truth about her people and the war that still raged among the stars. Why won't you tell me about Earth? 12-year-old Ilara stood with her arms crossed, facing Zalvora across their dining area. I know you have more information than what's in my learning modules. Zalvora's antenna drooped slightly, a sign of discomfort that Ilara had learned to recognize years ago. The Council believes certain information might be distressing for you. Because of the war? Ilara asked directly. Zalvora's forehand stilled. What do you know about that? I hear things. The older students talk. They say humans fight the Krayaks. They say humans are violent and dangerous. Ilara's dark eyes flashed. Is that why everyone watches me like I might explode? That evening, Zalvora requested an emergency meeting with the council. 3 hours of debate later, they reluctantly agreed to allow Ilara controlled access to information about human history and the current conflict. Ilara sat motionless as the holographic display showed the beginning of the human-Krayaks war. 15 years earlier, the first contact between the species had quickly deteriorated. The Krayaks, a highly aggressive clone species, had attacked without warning, destroying 3 human colony worlds. The Krayaks believe all other life forms are inferior, explained the educational program. Humans fight to protect their remaining colonies. Images showed destroyed cities, refugee ships, and battle cruisers. Somewhere in that conflict, Ilara's birth parents had died. Zalvora watched anxiously for signs of emotional distress, but Ilara's reaction surprised her. The girl didn't cry or shout. Instead, she asked for more information about human biology, culture, technology, and history. I need to understand who I am, she explained simply. By 14, Ilara had devoured every piece of information available about humans. She began staying awake through multiple Verlath sleep cycles, her human physiology requiring less rest. You should maintain a proper sleep schedule, Zalvora cautioned one morning, finding Ilara still working from the night before. I'm fine, Ilara said, her fingers moving quickly over the data console. Humans can adapt to different sleep patterns. Did you know human soldiers can stay alert for days during emergencies? Our bodies produce chemicals called adrenaline and cortisol fat. Yes, I am familiar with human stress responses, Zalvora interrupted gently. But you are not in an emergency situation. Ilara looked up, her expression serious beyond her years. Aren't I? My species is fighting for survival, and I'm the only human here. At 16, Ilara began experimenting with technology. She combined Verlath principles with theoretical human approaches she had studied. Her first invention was a modified shield generator that used less energy while providing better protection. When she demonstrated it at the Science Academy, the gathered scientists were stunned. How did you conceive this approach? Asked Senior Engineer Belfour. Verlath shields create perfect geometrical barriers, Ilara explained, but they require constant energy. Humans design in layers, imperfect but redundant. If one fails, others remain. By combining both approaches, the shield adapts rather than trying to maintain perfection. Zalvora watched with mixed emotions, pride in her daughter's brilliance, but also worry. Ilara's innovations could have military applications. The council was already discussing the implications. That night, Zalvora found Ilara staring at stars from their dwelling's observation dome. Earth is out there somewhere, Ilara said quietly, along with the rest of humanity. Does that make you sad? Zalvora asked, settling beside her. Sometimes, but I would never have created my shield design if I were just human, raised on Earth. She turned to look at Zalvora. I see things differently because of you, because I'm both human and something else. Not quite Verlath, but shaped by your world. Zalvora felt an unexpected warmth spread through her core, an emotion she had come to recognize as love, though her people rarely acknowledged such feelings. The latest reports indicate the war continues, Ilara said softly. When I'm 18, I want to help them. Zalvora's antenna stiffened in alarm. That would be extremely dangerous. I know, Ilara replied, but I think I could make a difference. I understand both worlds now. As they sat together beneath the stars, Zalvora realized her human daughter was no longer a child. And soon, she would have to let her go. Ilara's 18th birth anniversary arrived with the rising of Verlath Prime's 3 moons, a rare alignment that happened only once every 12 years. The Verlath considered such cosmic coincidences to be significant, though they would never admit to superstition. Zalvora had prepared a special meal using synthesized versions of Earth foods she had researched, something called chocolate cake, and a beverage made from fermented grapes. She had spent weeks perfecting the formulas. But Ilara was quiet during the celebration, barely touching the food. "Is the taste incorrect?" Zalvora asked. "The chemical composition should be within acceptable parameters." "It's perfect," Ilara said with a small smile. "Thank you. I have something to tell you." Though Zalvora had expected this moment, hearing the words still sent a cold sensation through her core. "I've requested permission from the Council to leave Verlath Prime," Ilara continued. "They've approved my petition." The Council's quick approval didn't surprise Zalvora. Many still viewed Ilara as a potential risk despite her contributions to their science. Others believed her technological innovations could help end the war, preferably far from their neutral world. "When will you go?" Zalvora asked, keeping her voice steady. "In 3 days. A trading vessel will take me to the Nexus station. From there, I can reach human space." 3 days, so little time after 18 years together. Ilara spent her final days on Verlath Prime in the laboratory, finalizing a project she had kept surprisingly secret. Even Zalvora didn't know the details, which was unusual. On her last evening, Ilara led Zalvora to the testing chamber. "I wanted to show you first," she said, activating a small spherical device on the pedestal. A shield bubble formed around them, shimmering with a soft blue light. Unlike standard shields that appeared solid, this one seemed to flow like water. "It's beautiful," Zalvora said, "but what makes it different?" "Watch." Ilara pressed a button, and a testing drone fired an energy beam at the shield. Instead of simply absorbing or deflecting the beam, the shield seemed to capture its energy, growing stronger. "This shield learns," Ilara explained. "It analyzes attacks and adapts in real time. The more it's hit, the stronger it becomes." Verlath precision combined with human adaptability. Zalvora's antenna trembled with amazement. This could change the outcome of the war. "That's what I'm hoping." Ilara deactivated the device. "The Council has granted me a small ship. I've modified it with this technology." Pride and fear battled within Zalvora's mind. "The Kraaks will target you if they discover you created this." "I know, but I have to try." Ilara's dark eyes met Zalvora's amber ones. "Your people taught me precision and patience. My human nature gave me creativity and the courage to take risks. I'm the bridge between 2 worlds, Mother. Maybe I can help build a third option. Peace." The small vessel waited in the launching bay, sleek and silver, like all Verlath ships, but modified with Ilara's unique touches. A small crew of technicians completed final checks, keeping their distance from the emotional farewell, emotions being something the Verlath found uncomfortable to witness. "I've uploaded all your medical data," Zalvora said, handing Ilara the data crystal, "and a complete history of your time here." "Thank you." Ilara clutched the crystal tightly. "I'll come back. I promise." Zalvora knew the statistical unlikelihood of this promise being fulfilled. The war had only grown more intense. Even with her shield technology, Ilara would face tremendous dangers. Against all Verlath custom, Zalvora wrapped her 4 arms around her human daughter, holding her close. "Your human parents would be proud of you," she whispered. "As am I." Ilara's eyes glistened with tears, another human response that had always fascinated Zalvora. "I've never met another human," she said softly, "but I know what it means to be loved because of you." As the ship disappeared into the starry darkness, Zalvora stood alone in the viewing chamber. For the first time in her long life, she understood why humans feared being alone. The emptiness felt vast beyond measuring. 7 years passed on Verlath Prime. For Zalvora, each day followed a familiar pattern. She continued her xenobiological research, published important papers, and maintained her position at the Science Academy. But Ilara's room remained untouched, exactly as she had left it. Her Verlath colleagues found this behavior puzzling and illogical. "The human has been gone for 7 years," her research partner Kelfar observed. "Yet you maintain her living space as if she might return tomorrow." "She might," Zalvora replied simply. In truth, information about Ilara was scarce. The Verlath maintained their neutrality in the war, which meant official communications with either humans or Kraax were limited. But Zalvora had her sources. Trading ships occasionally brought fragments of news. A human female with unusual technology had appeared in the border systems 3 years ago. She had introduced shield designs that could withstand Kraax thermal weapons, their most feared advantage. Some captains spoke of a human who negotiated and fought with methods neither fully human nor typical of any known species. "She thinks like a Verlath, but acts with human unpredictability," one trader reported. "The Kraax cannot anticipate her strategies." Zalvora saved every scrap of information, building a picture of her daughter's life among her own kind. The reports suggested Ilara had risen quickly through the human military ranks, but details were frustratingly vague. The Council of Elders summoned Zalvora on the 7th anniversary of Ilara's departure. She entered the circular chamber with cautious antennae. Unscheduled meetings were rare and usually indicated trouble. The 7 elders sat in their curved chairs, their silver skin reflecting the soft blue light. Chief Scientist Zalvora, Elder Morvath began, "We have received concerning reports about the human Kraax conflict. Has our neutrality been compromised?" Zalvora asked. "Not yet, but the balance of power has shifted dramatically. The humans have pushed the Kraax back from 23 star systems in the past year alone." A star map appeared in the center of the room, showing the retreating Kraax territories. "And these advances began shortly after your human daughter joined their forces." Zalvora felt a complex mix of pride and worry. Ilara is brilliant. Her understanding of both Verlath and human approaches gives her unique insights. "Precisely our concern," said another elder. "The shield technology she developed here, technology based on our science, has altered the course of the war. Some believe we have indirectly taken sides by educating her." "We educated a child," Zalvora countered, "not a weapon." The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued that the Verlath should officially support the humans. Now that victory seemed possible. Others feared Kraax retaliation if their neutrality appeared compromised. "And what does Zalvora believe?" Elder Morvath finally asked, silencing the others. Zalvora considered her words carefully. "I believe my daughter did not go to fight a war. She went to end one." That evening, as Verlath Prime's moons rose over the science complex, Zalvora sat in Ilara's empty room. She touched the learning devices, the clothes folded neatly in storage units, the collection of star charts on the wall where Ilara had marked Earth's position. A soft alert sounded from her private communication terminal. An encrypted message had arrived on an old scientific frequency that hadn't been used in years. When she opened it, the message contained only coordinates and a simple text in perfect Verlath script. Asterisk Mother, the war is ending. I've changed. So have they. We need your help for what comes next asterisk. Below this was Ilara's personal signature mark, a symbol that combined the Verlath life for knowledge with the human symbol for infinity. Zalvora's antenna straightened with shock. After 7 years of silence, Ilara had reached out. But the message was troubling. I've changed. So have they. What did that mean? She immediately began calculating what she would need for a deep space journey. Whatever Ilara faced, she would not face it alone. The Council refuses your request to investigate these coordinates, Elder Morvath announced, his tone final. Our neutrality must be maintained. Zalvora stood in the center of the council chamber, her silver skin reflecting the pale light. She had presented Ilara's message immediately, hoping for official support. The coordinates led to a remote system near the border of Kraax space. This is not a military matter, she argued. My daughter has requested scientific assistance. Your daughter, Elder Tilsar emphasized, is now a high-ranking human military officer. Any contact could be interpreted as the Verlath taking sides. Zalvora's antenna quivered with a rare display of emotion. For 200 years, the Verlath have claimed that the pursuit of knowledge is our highest purpose. Now, when faced with an opportunity to learn something new, you choose fear instead. The chamber fell silent. Challenging the council so directly was unprecedented. Finally, the eldest member, Renzor, spoke. What does Zalvora propose? A small scientific mission, my research vessel, and a team of specialists. We go as scientists, not as allies of either side. The debate lasted for hours. Reports indicated the war had reached a strange pause. Krayak's forces had stopped their attacks 3 weeks ago, and human fleets were holding position rather than advancing further. Something has changed, Zalvora insisted. We should understand what. In the end, the council reached a compromise. Zalvora could go, with a small team of volunteer scientists. But officially, they would be recorded as on leave, rather than on a sanctioned mission. If captured by either side, the Verlath government would deny any knowledge of their actions. 5 days later, Zalvora's research vessel Empirical Truth departed from Verlath Prime. With her were 4 scientists, specialists in genetics, physics, medicine, and communication. All had worked with Ilara during her years on their world. You understand the risks. Zalvora asked them as they entered faster than light travel. Kelthar, her longtime research partner, answered for the group. We are curious. Ilara always inspired that in us. The journey would take 12 days. Zalvora spent the time reviewing everything she knew about both humans and Krayaks. The Krayaks were a cloned species, each new generation an exact copy of the one before. This gave them remarkable unity but limited their ability to adapt. They had been expanding aggressively for centuries, seeing all other life forms as inferior. What could have stopped their advance? She wondered aloud as she studied the latest intelligence reports. And why would Ilara need a xenobiologist's help to end a war? On the 11th day of their journey, as they approached the coordinates, the ship's sensors detected something unusual, a small station orbiting a neutron star. The intense radiation and magnetic fields would hide it from most scanning technologies. Clever, murmured Kelthar. The location provides natural shielding. A transmission came through as they neared the station. Verlath research vessel. This is Station Harmony. Please identify. The voice was human, but with the precise pronunciation of Verlath language that only Ilara would know. This is the Empirical Truth Zalvora responded. Chief Scientist Zalvora responding to communication from Science Officer Ilara. A pause then, Mother. You came yourself. The sound of Ilara's voice, deeper now, more confident, but unmistakably hers, sent a wave of emotion through Zalvora that her logical mind struggled to process. Of course I came. Your message indicated urgency. Thank you. Ilara's voice contained both relief and tension. You'll need to prepare your team. What you're about to see will challenge everything the Verlath believe about the Krayaks. And about humans too. As the research vessel docked with the station, Zalvora felt something she had not experienced in her 173 years, nervous anticipation. Whatever waited beyond that airlock would change everything. She was certain of it. We are scientists, she reminded her team as the docking procedure completed. We observe without judgment. The airlock cycled open, revealing a corridor where a single figure waited. Ilara had changed. 7 years had transformed the girl into a woman. She wore a modified human military uniform, with strange symbols Zalvora didn't recognize. A thin scar ran across her left cheek, but her eyes, those were the same. Mother, she said simply, then stepped forward to embrace Zalvora in the human way. Behind her, at the end of the corridor, stood something none of them had expected, a Krayaks warrior, waiting patiently. Zalvora's antenna stiffened at the sight of the Krayaks warrior. The reptilian being stood nearly 2 meters tall, its scaled skin a deep crimson, eyes like polished black stones. The 4 Verlath scientists behind her froze in alarm. "This is Commander Krizak," Ilara said calmly. "He represents the Kraax High Command." The Kraax inclined its head in a gesture of respect. "The mother of Ilara is welcome." Zalvora had never heard a Kraax speak without threats. Their translator device gave the words a raspy quality, but the tone was unmistakably civil. "Come," Ilara said, leading them through corridors where humans and Kraax worked side by side. "I'll explain everything." They entered a large laboratory filled with advanced equipment. Screens displayed complex genetic sequences that Zalvora immediately recognized as Kraax DNA. 7 months ago, Ilara began, "I was captured during a battle near the Rigel system, but instead of killing me, the Kraax brought me to their lead scientist." Commander Krizak continued the story. "We had studied the human shield technology. It bore the mark of both human innovation and Verlath precision. We recognized the Creator must have unique knowledge. They wanted to understand how I thought," Ilara explained. "But while studying me, I was studying them too. Mother, do you remember teaching me about pattern recognition in biological systems?" Zalvora nodded. It had been one of Ilara's favorite lessons as a child. "I noticed something in their behavior, subtle tremors, memory lapses, coordination problems in some warriors." Ilara brought up more genetic displays. "The Kraax are dying." Commander Krizak's black eyes blinked slowly. "For 6 generations, we have noticed decline. Each clone cycle is less stable than the last. We estimate 3 more generations before total failure." "That's why they've been expanding so aggressively," Ilara said. "They're desperate for resources to solve their genetic degradation." Zalvora's scientific mind raced ahead. "Clone degradation, a well-documented phenomenon. Each copy introduces tiny errors that compound over generations." "Yes," Ilara agreed, "but the Kraax had no comparison point. Their society has been isolated for millennia. They believed all other species must face the same issue. Their aggression came from fear that others might find a solution first." Kelfar stepped forward, eyes fixed on the genetic displays. "These are attempted repairs to their genome." "Yes," Ilara said. "When I understood their problem, I offered a solution. Peace in exchange for helping them. They brought me here to work in secret. If their warriors knew their leaders were negotiating with inferior beings, they might rebel." "What solution did you offer?" Zalvora asked. "A genetic restoration technique combining elements from multiple species." Ilara brought up a complex molecular structure. "But I've reached the limit of my knowledge. That's why I called you, Mother. You're the greatest xenobiologist in known space." Zalvora studied the displays with growing amazement. Ilara had created a theoretical framework for restoring genetic diversity to the Kraax genome without destroying their essential nature. It was brilliant but incomplete. "You've combined human, Verlath, and even plant DNA structures as templates," she observed. "The approach is unconventional." "That's my human half," Ilara said with a smile. "Always looking for connections where others see only differences." Commander Krizak turned his massive head toward Zalvora. "We offer complete access to our genetic data. In return, we ask for your expertise. If we succeed," Ilara added, "the Kraax will sign a permanent peace treaty. Both sides will stop fighting." Zalvora looked at her daughter, this remarkable being who had once been a helpless infant in a failing stasis pod. Now she stood between 2 ancient species, creating a bridge where only conflict had existed before. "Your approach needs refinement," Zalvora said, already analyzing the data. "But the fundamental concept is sound. We will need more samples, different tissue types." As the scientists began their work, Zalvora felt a strange sense of completion. She had rescued Ilara long ago. Now Ilara was rescuing entire civilizations. 3 weeks passed on Station Harmony. Zalvora and her team worked tirelessly alongside Ilara and the Kryak scientists. The challenge was immense, creating a genetic treatment that would restore diversity to the Kryak's genome without erasing their identity. The solution must be elegant, Zalvora explained as they refined their approach. Too much change too quickly will be rejected. The treatment must work with their existing systems, not against them. Ilara nodded, making adjustments to the genetic sequencer, like teaching rather than replacing. This was where Ilara's unique perspective proved invaluable. She understood both the precise, methodical approach of the Verlath and the intuitive leaps of human science. She bridged the gap between species that had never truly communicated before. On the 22nd day, they achieved their breakthrough. The test samples show 97% acceptance, Kelthar announced, his antenna vibrating with excitement. Cellular degradation has not only stopped but begun to reverse. Commander Krizak studied the results, his usual stoic expression softening. You have given my people a future. A delegation of human military leaders arrived the next day. Their initial shock at seeing Verlath and Kryaks working together quickly turned to cautious hope when Ilara presented their findings. The treatment requires 3 cycles to fully stabilize the Kryak's genome, she explained to the assembled leaders. During this time, both sides will maintain a ceasefire zone around key treatment facilities. An older human general with gray hair studied Zalvora with undisguised curiosity. So you're the alien who raised our Ilara? I had that honor, Zalvora replied simply. The general's weathered face softened. We've established a holiday on Earth, you know. Zalvora Day. It honors the alien who saved one of humanity's brightest minds. Zalvora's antenna drooped in embarrassment. I merely did what was logical. The child needed care. Logic had nothing to do with it, the general said with a knowing smile. Even I can see that. Later, after the officials had left to begin implementing the peace protocols, Ilara found Zalvora alone in the laboratory. Are you uncomfortable with the attention? She asked. Verlath do not seek recognition, Zalvora said. Knowledge is its own reward. Ilara smiled. That sounds exactly like what you taught me as a child. She sat beside her alien mother. You know what made the difference in all this? Not just my human creativity or Verlath precision. It was understanding that different doesn't mean wrong. Zalvora considered this, a concept neither humans nor Kryaks had fully grasped. Nor Verlath, Ilara added gently. Your people took me in, but always saw me as an anomaly. I never did, Zalvora said quietly. I know. That's why I succeeded. Ilara reached out and took one of Zalvora's 4 hands. The humans asked me how I understood the Kryaks when no one else could. I told them that before I knew what humanity was, I knew what acceptance was, and it had silver skin, 4 arms, and eyes that saw value in difference. As the genetic treatment began distribution to the first Kryaks colonies, the station became busier. Diplomats arrived to formalize peace treaties. Scientists came to study the breakthrough. Through it all, Zalvora observed her daughter, confident, brilliant, moving effortlessly between species that had once been mortal enemies. On the final evening before Zalvora would return to Verlath Prime, now as an official ambassador rather than a rogue scientist, she found Ilara in the observation dome, watching the neutron stars pulsing light. Without words, they stood together, the alien mother and her human daughter. Their biochemistries were incompatible, their worlds light years apart, but something deeper connected them. I told the human leaders about how you found me, Ilara said softly. About the stasis pod and your decision to take me. It was the correct choice, Zalvora replied. Ilara smiled. The most human choice you ever made. Zalvora's antenna curved in what Ilara recognized as her version of a smile. Perhaps being human and being Verlath are not so different as we once believed. They watched the stars together, 2 beings from different worlds who had changed the universe. not through force, but through the simple miracle of family.